listening to English in your sleep helps train your listening skills. Before we start the story, it's important to understand the science behind this method. When we sleep, our brain is like a powerful computer that is doing maintenance and sorting data. The stages of deep sleep and dream sleep, REM sleep, are responsible for memory consolidation. This is the process of moving information from short-term to long-term memory. When you listen to English in your sleep, you are not learning in the conscious way. You will not wake up knowing new irregular verbs. However, something more fundamental is happening: acoustic immersion and the creation of neural patterns. Your brain, even in an unconscious state, activates the auditory cortex. It starts to recognize and map unfamiliar sound patterns, intonation curves, and the rhythm of the language. It is similar to a musician who practices a melody many times until it feels natural. The brain builds neural pathways. These pathways become the foundation for recognizing these sounds when you are awake. So, when you hear an English sentence during the day, your brain doesn't need to understand this acoustic chaos from the beginning. It already knows this road. It has already trained to recognize it at night. This is not a magic pill, but a powerful catalyst. It prepares the ground for conscious learning, making it much more effective. Learn English while sleeping. A symphony for the brain. Part 1. The Wall of Sound. Anna sat in a semi-dark office, lit only by the cold glow of her monitor. It was 8:30 p.m., but her sense of time had disappeared. On her screen were the faces of colleagues from London, Singapore, and New York. The daily stand-up meeting had just finished, and Anna, as always, felt completely exhausted. She was a talented UX designer, and her digital transformation project was successful. So successful that it was now global. And now her biggest problem was not complex interfaces, but a wall of sound. The English of her colleagues, fast, unclear, full of idioms and special terms, mixed into a continuous, noisy stream. She caught separate words: budget, deadline, framework, but the general meaning escaped her like sand through her fingers. Forming her own sentences was very difficult. She felt like a child trying to shout in a storm. That evening, something new happened. Mark, her direct manager from London, spoke to her directly. "Anna, we need you to take the lead on this and run it up the flagpole. See who salutes it." She froze. Take the lead. She understood that. But the rest? Run it up the flagpole? See who salutes it? Her mind, tired from 8 hours of concentration, just shut down. Her vision went dark for a second, and her heart beat fast with panic. I will understand the details and send an update," she said, trying to keep her voice calm. On the other end, there was a pause, too long. "Okay, Anna," Mark said calmly. "Let's discuss this separately." It was a defeat, complete and total. Part 2. Despair and Hope. She didn't sleep that night. She searched websites, looking for a solution: fast English learning, overcoming the language barrier, English for IT specialists. All paths seemed long and exhausting. Courses, tutors, textbooks, all of it required time, which she didn't have, and energy, which was already used up by work. Early in the morning, when the world outside her window was turning grey, she found a forum where someone mentioned learning while you sleep. At first she was skeptical, a trap for naive people. But then she saw links to research on neuroplasticity and memory consolidation during deep sleep. She read the term hypnopedia, learning during sleep. The scientific consensus was clear. You will not learn new complex concepts, but your brain can activate and train its perception of sound patterns. It wasn't magic, it was science. Science that offered a helping hand. Despair turned into focused hope. She downloaded a special app. It didn't have just audio lessons, but whole acoustic stories created for different sleep stages. Slow, calm stories for falling asleep, and more dynamic dialogues for the REM sleep phase. Part 3. First Steps in Another Dimension. The first night was strange. She lay down, put in her wireless headphones, and turned on the first session. A calm walk in the forest. A low, melodic voice of a British narrator surrounded her. He described a path covered with pine needles, the song of birds, the rustle of leaves. The sentences were simple, but not childish. They repeated, changing slightly. The path is winding through the tall trees. I am walking along a winding path. The tall trees surround the path. She didn't try to translate anything. She just immersed herself in the sound and fell asleep before the narrator reached the end of the path. The first weeks didn't bring any wow effect. She woke up, and there wasn't a single complete sentence in her head. But somewhere on a deep level, something was changing. For example, before, the combination of sounds in like, through the, mixed together for her into an incomprehensible mass. Now, hearing it during the day, she began to distinguish the separate parts. Her brain started to do what children do, break the continuous flow of speech into separate units. Part 4. First Victories. The first victory came unexpectedly. After a month of her nightly immersion, she was on the subway and automatically listened to a conversation between two American tourists. They were discussing where to go for dinner. And suddenly, she didn't just understand the words, she felt their doubt, their tone. I'm kinda leaning towards that Italian place, but it looks kinda pricey, said one. Ah, come on, don't be such a cheapskate. We're on vacation, answered the other. Anna smiled. She not only understood the meaning of pricey, expensive, and cheapskate, a person who doesn't like to spend money, but she also felt the joking tone of the phrase. It wasn't a mechanical understanding, but an empathetic one. Her brain stopped working so hard and started to perceive the language as a tool for communication. At work, the changes became even more noticeable. During a meeting, someone from the team said, "We'll have to iron out some bugs in the pipeline." Before, she would have only understood bugs and pipeline. Now, the phrasal verb iron out, to fix or solve, sounded in her mind not as separate words, but as a single logical unit. She nodded. Understood. I'll focus on the UI bugs first. Part 5. Breaking through the ice. The most important moment came after 3 months. The company organized a virtual team-building event, a quest in virtual reality where teams had to communicate and solve problems. Anna was in a group with Mark and 2 other colleagues from the USA. The pace was incredibly fast. Instructions were coming like from a machine gun. At one point, everyone was confused. Mark, sounding a little tired, said, "Okay, folks, we're going around in circles. Let's take a step back and get everyone on the same page." And then Anna, without thinking, completely naturally, took the initiative. She saw a solution that the others didn't. "If I may," she said confidently, Sarah is right about the encryption key. The problem isn't in the code, it's in the handshake protocol. We've been barking up the wrong tree. There was silence on the call. The phrase, barking up the wrong tree, to be wrong about the way to achieve something, came out of her mouth absolutely spontaneously. She had heard it dozens of times in her nightly audio stories about detectives. "Anna, that's actually brilliant," she heard Mark's voice, which had surprise and respect in it. "You're absolutely right. Let's pivot." The ice that had surrounded her professional image cracked and fell apart. They didn't just win the quest. She won her place in the global team. Part 6. A New Reality. A year passed. Anna was no longer a quiet participant in meetings. She was an active speaker, sometimes even making jokes. Her English wasn't perfect. She still made grammar mistakes, but her listening comprehension became almost perfect. She could distinguish between accents, understand humorous undertones, and follow fast technical discussions. She continued her nightly sessions, but now they were not a tool of despair, but a ritual. It was a time when her brain, free from conscious commands, floated freely in the ocean of language, composing its own symphony of sounds, intonations, and meanings. It was building bridges between what she learned consciously during the day and what she perceived unconsciously at night. She understood the main thing. Learning in her sleep didn't give her a dictionary or grammar. It gave her something more important: confidence. Confidence that she was capable of understanding. It was the foundation on which everything else could be built strongly and reliably. She closed her eyes, listening to the quiet voice of the narrator, talking about a city that never sleeps, and smiled. Her brain also never sleeps. It is always learning. It is always growing. A huge thank you, my dear reader. If this story found a response in your heart, opened new possibilities for you, or simply gave you a few minutes of inspiration, I would be very grateful for your support. Please subscribe to my channel. There, you will find a lot more interesting content, from deep analyses of language learning methods to exciting stories that motivate self-development. Your subscription is not just a click. It is a signal for me that this work is meaningful, and it inspires me to create even more high-quality and useful content for you. Thank you for being part of our community. Bye for now.